We want one single grand lie, a massive untruth meant for the sole purpose of deception to create an outcome that the masses would not otherwise be willing to accept.
armoroftruth.net.
Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. He says it would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent, moral busybodies. Those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end because they do it with the approval of their own conscience. To be cured against one's will and cured of states which we may not regard as disease is to be classed with infants, imbeciles, and domestic animals. One article says, stop wasting COVID tests, people. With a surge in cases, tests should be reserved for those who need them the most. Well, who might that be? I thought everyone was in danger. The narrative seems to shift and turn and undulate. The NBA and NFL surrendered to their jab refusers. Pro basketball and football showed that tough rules work, but now they're giving up. Another way to look at that would be to say, well, that bodily autonomy is reasonable. See, Omicron is the beginning of the end. Another article that says, no matter the severity of the variant, the appetite for shutdowns and other large-scale social interventions simply isn't there. Do you agree with that? And of course, Dr. Robert Malone saying that the vaccine scientists spreading vaccine misinformation. This is an example. Look, as long as you're on message, supporting the official narrative, the mainstream media anyway, or the bulk of it, will support you. But if you offer any opinion, any facts or evidence that's counter to the official narrative, you're going to run into trouble. Why does that happen? Search for Armor of Truth on demand on your favorite podcasting platform. You can also find us nearly everywhere on social media. Consider supporting us with your prayers and your participation through sharing this content widely. If you are able and you'd like to help, armoroftruth.net/donations shows details on how to contribute and how to contact us. Thanks for watching this message. As Christian apologist Cornelius Van Til said, today, irrationalism has made a secret treaty with rationalism. Or, in other words, modern man is perfectly happy contradicting himself. There is a severe lack of responsibility in dealing with truth, and it has invaded all spheres of influence, including government, the church, and of course, the media. Being logically inconsistent is acceptable among a significant portion of our country today, of the world. And so, radical skepticism is prevalent on both sides of the political paradigm. As you know, we don't play red or blue here. We play truth here. And within the truth movement itself, the movement that claims to love truth above all else, which of course is another curious contradiction. These signs are evidence of a descent into depravity that the Apostle Paul discusses so clearly as occurring to those who reject transcendent truth in exchange for contradictory notions. This idea, this false notion of human autonomy leads to futility of the mind, and it leads to a culture like we see forming around us today. A culture that rejects reason, rejects consistency, rejects true compassion, and first and foremost, rejects God. And this movement is dangerous because it demands that we all come along with them on their descent into fatalism. But the good news is that we have the answer. The gospel refutes this unbiblical attitude. And we want to help you think through this today as to how that actually happens.
Faith is resistance.
What is the noble lie? A concept and practice that has, throughout history, been used as a tool for social engineering, been used as a tool for guiding the masses in a desired direction. In politics, a noble lie is a myth or untruth knowingly told and promoted by a government or an elite in order to maintain social harmony or to advance an agenda, or both. The term suggests that the author of the narrative is deliberately deceiving the people. In Plato's Republic, Socrates introduces the idea by saying, we want one single grand lie, which will be believed by everybody. A massive untruth meant for the sole purpose of deception to create an outcome that the masses would not otherwise be willing to accept. Let's give an example. Let's imagine a small group of elites in the world, and they desire control over a great number of free persons and their free economy. Knowing that these free persons would never agree to give them that control, these elites, with their power over the politicians, the markets, and with their power over the law itself, let's just say they orchestrate an event, or let's say they orchestrate many events over many years, where, over time, fear is instilled in the people, and these same elites propose the solution to that fear via their preconceived solution, which is the control that they desired all along. They might say something like, look, we all want to feel safe. You want your family to feel safe, don't you? Therefore, we just need to limit your freedoms for a little while. Just give us 2 weeks. No, if you could just give us a month, if you could just stay inside a little longer, right? Because we want to keep the bad man from being able to reach you, to keep the new illness from being able to reach you. So if people can be made to believe a noble lie, or made too afraid to dissent, then they're going to be strongly motivated toward compliance, whether they're true believers or not. Now, understanding psychology very well, these elites know that their myth must be one that creates a feeling of national or civic identity, one that is grounded in a singular purpose. We're all in this together. Likewise, there must be a feeling of dread that comes and goes. A lot of fear followed by a little relief, and then more and more fear followed by a promise of a little relief. The dismantling of a vibrant and healthy economy with fear and force, followed by a little relief in the form of a check or a couple months stipend for your failing small business. A global show of force in the form of lockdowns and lockups for those who dissent, followed by the promise of a return to freedom in our new, safer normal. Sounds kind of like what narcissistic abusers do to their victims. From Ingrid Clayton, PhD, over here at Psychology Today. But when the abuser is the same person that brings us relief, the brain associates the abuser also with safety. The brain latches on to the positive experience of relief rather than the negative impact. This happens because the body's threat response turns off. The part of our minds with which we think rationally turns off. You go into a survival mode. And this creates the feeling that we need the abuser to survive, a feeling that's often mistaken for love. Dr. Clayton here says, trauma bonding is a hormonal attachment created by repeat abuse, sprinkled with being saved every now and then. This type of conditioning is intuitively exploited by narcissists. They are masters at giving us just enough, and they're ripping it all away. A trauma bond is formed in conjunction with gaslighting, shaming, and manipulation designed to make us question our reality. On the other hand, there must be consequences for those who see it for what it is and properly identify it as a lie and refuse to bond with the abuser. These types of people are dangerous to the abuser. They're dangerous to the movement. Their ideas must not be allowed to reach the people. So what we see going on around us today, dissenting opinions must not be tolerated. In fact, in an authoritarian, narcissistic overthrow of a free nation, all debate must be canceled. And truth must be co-opted and then sold back to the people as a brand, as a pill, as a remedy, as an offer you can't refuse. Follow our movement or starve. How can dissent be effectively managed and true debate be silenced in a nation that had previously flourished because of its robust political and public debate? Controlling the minds of the people is how it's done. Psychologically managing the minds of the masses to reject debate, conditioning people to act on feelings rather than truth, teaching people to hate the one who disagrees with the experts, to call anyone with a dissenting opinion a conspiracy theorist, and to shame them with guilt.
I think we have to stop coddling people when it comes to this and the vaccine, saying, oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes, they are. The people who are not getting vaccines, who are believing the lies on the internet instead of science, it's time to start shaming them. What else? Or leave them behind.
As Huxley wrote in Brave New World, what you want, what the abuser wants, what the state wants in this case, is for the people to learn to love their servitude. And they will.
Got double vax, boosted, regular testing.
Yeah, so we've obviously got to get a negative antigen test to get on our flight. It can be PCR or antigen, but antigen ones are quicker. When our flight's in a couple of hours, but the queue's so long, we're just hoping that it is negative. If it's not, we don't know what we're going to do.
I'm getting tested because my roommate tested positive last week, and we have been masking and isolating in our own apartment. I tried to get a PCR test. It took over a week now to get my results back, and getting a rapid test today is the best way I can know whether I can see my family this week or not.
It's often said these days that people are basically good. We all just want the truth. But is that true? Do people really want the truth? Even when it's inconvenient? Are we all basically good? Look, if people were basically good and we all just wanted the truth, do you think our world would look any different than it does right now? Now that's evidence for your senses, for your eyes and ears, that the world follows its own agenda of fear and darkness. How about some biblical evidence? This is the judgment, that light has come into the world, and men love the darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. Because everyone who does evil hates the light, and does not come to the light for fear that his deeds would be exposed. But he who practices the truth comes to light, so that his deeds may be manifested as having been wrought in, having originated in, or having come from God. We get more explanation of why this is the state of the world in 2 Corinthians 4. Speaking of those in the world who are perishing, says in whose case the God of this world, that being Satan, being mammon, being desires for materialism, the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelieving so that they might not see the light. And this is referring to the Old Testament, several places in the Old Testament, specifically Psalms and Isaiah. So this has always been true. As it is written, there is none righteous, not even one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become useless. There is none who does good. There is not even one. We need to understand our condition. We need to know what times we're living in before we can understand our need of the Savior who will regenerate our hearts to this light, which is truth. Why, you would have to wonder, why can't people figure this out? Why can't people see that this is being reported only one way, that it's not objective? Well, establishing dominance through psychology. This is the initiation. The initiation to Gnostic Darwinism, the initiation to social utopianism. Right? They're going to save the world. as if they could. So in order to do this, you have to get people to believe that you can do it. You have to reframe reality. Abundance is oppression. Narratives are truth. Return to primacy, childlike dependence. They have to remove continuity. Always have ambiguous threats. Keep you in a perpetual state of dread. What is it today? Terrorism? What is it tomorrow? Aliens? Asteroids? Climate change? Racism? Pandemics? Another step is the removal of purpose, which makes you dependent on the state. Of course, the step that we're focused in on here early on today is denouncing logic, where scientism replaces the scientific method. Experts replace evidence. Only approved experts are authoritative in this overthrow. All experts, in my opinion, all experts should be skeptics. Objectively challenging the status quo is how advances in science are achieved. We can't shut down the debate. We can't shut down those who don't agree with us. Another step of this is flaunting their dominance. Have you seen examples of either celebrities or politicians, people who have occasion to be photographed a lot? Have you seen them flouting their own rules? You'll see politicians. Gavin Newsom's a good example. There are many others. You hear it, right? Rules for thee and not for me. Ultimately, you want to create a faith-based society. Not faith in God, faith in the state, the worship of the state. Now, there's an article that we're going to be diving down on today. The article is called How to Create a Pandemic of Mental Illness. An irrational sowing of fear that results in long periods of panic, followed by promises and insignificant gifts from those in power. This causes waves of terror. And it doesn't matter if the terror in question is real or fictitious. Each round of fear is followed by a round of calm. Contradictory reports, nonsensical recommendations, and blatant lies are deployed intentionally because it increases confusion. The more confused a population is, the greater the state of anxiety, which reduces the ability to cope with the crisis. As the ability to cope withers, the more unhealthy the society becomes. Many voluntarily expose themselves to this brainwashing. The senses are continually overloaded with stimuli. He learns not to question his world anymore. The screen offers him answers that are already made. Customized truth. Now, these visuals you have here, this is just a trip around what's going on in the news today that Summer has put together to show you, a cross-section of what the conversation looks like out on the internet right now, out in the hyper-real. The ultimate tool to induce psychosis is isolation. A society kept in isolation from each other descends into madness as rational thought is obliterated and replaced with unreasonable belief. Once a society is firmly in the grip of mass psychosis, then the totalitarians are free to take the last deceptive step. They can offer a way out. They can offer a return to order. But the price is your freedom. Unless they are granted total control, well, they won't be able to create that new normal that everyone craves. This so-called normal is a pathological one. It's devoid of all humanity. Demands strict conformity. It demands blind obedience. The noble lie is founded on deception. And so globalists, neo-Darwinians, social utopians, so they know they need to produce ever larger lies. They know that in order to get control of men's minds, you must first remove God as a viable option and then provide a sensual option that replaces eternal truth. Replace eternal truth with pragmatism. Replace a constant with a variable. What is the death toll today? Does it make you feel afraid? Does it make you feel sad or anxious? There is a moral breakdown in the world. Mankind the secular world, must find a way to get everyone walking in the same direction without truth, without God, which, of course, is just an ever-increasing and repeating error. The globalist, technocratic, materialist, utopian answer to all of this is the noble lie. A great reset. The agenda for the 21st century. The new normal. This is how great lies are accepted by stunned masses. An existential crisis is presented often only in the hyper-real world of screens, not even in the physical world. And then comes a period of induction or initiation to that fear, and then the ready solution is rolled out over and over and over. Understand what time it is in which you're living, Christian. This also shows us the need to take full advantage of the time God gives us here. We've been called to live in a very interesting time. Many a man loses his soul as Saul lost his kingdom by not discerning, not knowing the time in which he lived. Esau came too late, and so did the foolish virgins with their empty lamps. So our question to you today, is this a time for silence?
Nietzsche, of course, announced the death of God and called for the birth of the Übermensch, the Superman, who would take humanity to new heights and to create a new world order.
Armor of Truth. Live. Faith is resistance.
Find us at the Brad from Carolina YouTube channel. armoroftruth.net.